Hey friends, it's Charles here with a Nerd News Now update. I like to check in and see what's going on in nerd culture via wrestling, comic books, you name it. Mostly wrestling lately, but it's just stuff that I see and I want to give my personal thoughts on. And Jinder has indeed been hindered. Jinder Mahal has been fired by the WWE. Now, I have an unpopular opinion, and I was actually watching WWE at the time he was a champion, and I have always liked him from the day he debuted. And I thought that his championship run was very good and better than it had any right to be. Um, Objectively, he has the look of a wrestler. He's competent in the ring. He has a physical charisma. And I think left to his own devices, he would have been more successful. But you have to remember when he was champion, WWE didn't have the competition that they have now. They had writers who were writing to appease one person whose humor generally didn't connect with the wider audience. But Jinder Mahal took the garbage that was given to him in the writing and he made the best he could have out of it. And let's not forget the job of a bad guy champion is to make you want to pay money to see him get taken out. And when AJ Styles won the championship from him before Survivor Series, people were so ecstatic. They were so AJ Styles was instantly a bigger star. So Jinder did his job. Um, I think the problem is that he became a meme. He became a punchline, and it's very hard to escape that. When you get that tag in WWE, most don't. Drew McIntyre, he became that, and he pretty much went on a world tour, rebuilt himself physically, changed his whole demeanor and character. When he came back, he was probably the hottest guy on the Indies. The same with Cody Rhodes. He came back a whole different person. Um, and a lot of guys they don't survive that punchline tag. Um, Jinder Mahal, he went away and he got a lot bigger, but he really didn't make that big of a splash on the indie scene. I think he would have been better served being on the indie scene for a while and saying, you know what, I appreciate the call WWE, but I need to, maybe get some polish on me and raise my stock. Probably the most successful guy that went from a punchline to a serious big star is I have to say when Zack Ryder became Matt Cardona. He was, he had the rug pulled away from under him by WWE time and time and time again. And when he hit the indie scene, he was a joke, and people, they didn't take him seriously because he didn't pay his dues on the indies. But he leaned into the hate and became, the biggest name in independent wrestling, one of the biggest names in wrestling, period. And he did that while being unsigned, but it wasn't through an accident. He had a lot of investment financially and time wise, a lot of forethought, a lot of planning, a lot of work on social media, behind the camera. The guy did everything, but he's very calculated. He wasn't going to take bookings that made him look bad. He was going to he made himself sparse in the bigger companies to raise his stock, and now it's like, he pops up on AEW unsigned and gets a bigger pop than a lot of guys in AEW. Same thing with when he popped up on Impact. GC, wherever the guy goes, he's money. And, I think that, especially now in this age where wrestlers are able to, and athletes are able to condition themselves to have a lot longer careers, he could still, raise his stock and become something completely different, but it's not going to happen by accident. Jinder Mahal, if you see this, I'm in your corner. I've always enjoyed your work, And this isn't a slight on Jinder at all. It's just the fact of the matter is right now, you go to AEW, they have a top tier main event scene. He would be another Cesar Bonani. Um, I think if you give him some time to cool off and introduce him into Impact Wrestling, TNA Wrestling now, that might be a good fit. Or maybe even, have him go over to GHC or New Japan and, kind of get some, credibility that way. That's one thing about, those Japanese companies is when you go over there from America and you spend some time, you kind of get this, I don't know if it's fair, but you get this perception of being, okay, now he's grizzled, now he's a tough guy. But I mean, it's something that a lot of guys do. They go over to Japan, they work that style, they move up through the ranks and raise their stock to come back to WWE. It worked for Giant Bernard. Unfortunately, he came back as Lord Tensai, but the dude left WWE as a punchline, as Albert, to shave your back chance. He went over to New Japan Pro Wrestling and became a big star, and that got his ticket punched to come back here to the United States and sign with WWE. And so, I think Jinder Mahal could do big things in TNA. Maybe even the British scene go over there. It's coming back around since WWE has pulled their tents up out of the UK, and Japan, Mexico is hit or miss. Um, you know, um, I don't know. There's a few American stars that are really doing things down there, but a lot of guys they go down there and it's just that's where their career is because it's not a lot of. Unfortunately, outside of the big few luchadors, there's not a lot of recognition from the general American audience of that style. And I think it has to do with some cultural bias toward lucha libre, but that's a whole other conversation. He's big in India. On his last um, stint on the Indies, he worked with Great Khali and was over there helping him set up his company. And so the guy will have work. He's still younger, looks great, works great. Um, he just has to remove that tag of a punchline, and I think that he can do it. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the recently released Jinder Mahal. They've also released his tag team partners, who I'm not familiar with because I haven't been following the product as close as I used to, and Xia Li, who I was a big fan of when I saw her in NXT. And she has an aura and legitimacy. I think there's probably, I don't know, some negativity on her because she injured another wrestler at one point, but it's wrestling, that happens. Anyway, that's Nerd News Now. My thoughts on Jinder being hindered by WWE. You guys be easy. Keep collecting them action figures. Keep reading them damn comic books. And I'll see you in my next video.